Today, House Democrats succeeded in passing their first big priority for the new Congress. That is a massive anti-corruption and campaign finance bill. Every House Democrat present voted for the bill, and every House Republican voted no. So it's gotta be controversial, right? A lot of radical policies in there. And we've talked about this a number of times over the past few months, but I just wanna give you a quick run through of what was actually in the bill before you find out why it is likely to go no further through the US government. The bill would establish nationwide automatic voter registration, election day registration, and 2 weeks of early voting in every state. It would curb gerrymandering by requiring independent commissions to draw congressional maps instead of partisan state legislatures. To reduce the influence of mega donors on elections, it would create a small donor matching system to publicly finance congressional campaigns and require dark money groups to disclose their donors. And finally, in terms of ethics, it would enact new ethics reforms, among them requiring the president and vice president, along with future candidates for those offices, to release 10 years of personal and business tax returns. That seems unnecessary because what president wouldn't do that? Just give us the information we need. Now, of course, every single element of that is apparently a total non-starter with the Republican Party right now, as becomes clear when you go to its next stop, which would be in the Senate. And here's what Mitch McConnell had to say about it.
This is a terrible proposal. It will not get any floor time in the Senate. I believe we can actually win elections against people who vote for this turkey. Taxpayer funding of elections, partisan takeover of the FEC, and no real concern about the only obvious election fraud we had in the last election as a result of ballot harvesting. This is a solution in search of a problem. What it really is a bill designed to make it more likely Democrats win more often. Nothing else. So if they want to talk about getting rid of ballot harvesting, I'd be open to that. Beyond that, I don't think anything in here is salvageable.
All right, get a load of the nerve of this guy talking about turkeys with a neck like that.
I didn't know if you were gonna go there. But we were all thinking it.
I would say the nerve of the ballot harvesting comment, I think, is better, considering that insofar as there has been fraud related to something like ballot harvesting, it was a Republican that was doing it. It wasn't long ago, you could acknowledge that. And in general, like he wants to use that terminology because he doesn't want you to know what he actually is opposed to, and that is either individuals or groups assisting those who can't personally deliver their absentee ballots to make sure that their vote is still counted, which to me sounds like democracy, just like every other element of this. I mean, they're saying this is a power grab to let people vote, to make sure that they can register, to make sure that they have the day off work to vote. Like, if that is a power grab, if that makes it impossible for you to win, your party's got more fundamental issues than you're willing to admit at that press conference, Mitch McConnell.
So I want to break down what he said a little further. So to just expand on what John is saying, taking people's ballots and handing them in is helping people vote. Taking people's ballots and changing them, as the Republicans did in North Carolina, is ballot harvesting. And so McConnell, to his credit, is really audacious. I mean, he brings up a cheating that the Republicans did in this election cycle in 2018, and that election was not certified, and they're going to redo the election. I don't ever remember an election being redone at the congressional level before. It's unprecedented, the level of cheating that the Republicans did. So he turns around and saying, well, the Democrats helping actual citizens vote is the same thing as our cheating, but he doesn't say ours. He never mentioned that it was the Republicans who did it. So he's so outrageous. But break down three more things, but go ahead,
I have to jump in on your first point. Obviously, I agree with you. I don't know if it's audacious for him to do this. I think if anything, it's savvy for him to do it, because who's gonna challenge him? Are the reporters listening to that press conference gonna challenge that blatant lie that he just told? Of course they're not. So are the Republicans who consider themselves right wing, are they gonna fact check it or challenge it for themselves? Probably not. So he will get to lie and he will get to twist something that the Republicans did and then blame Democrats for it, and then he'll go unchallenged. And that lie will live on in the minds of who knows how many Americans.
So I'm gonna take three quotes from the video you just saw. He says, I don't see anything in here salvageable, referring to the bill. The bill is huge. So one part of the bill is ethics, and where it says, hey, if you do sexual harassment of your staff, you have to pay for it instead of the taxpayers. So that's not salvageable?
It's not salvageable.
So apparently he's like, no, he doesn't see anything good in this bill. So if you do discrimination, you do whatever, like if a congressman or a senator is terrible to his own staff, it's so bad that he's got to pay damages. He says, no, the American taxpayers should pay instead of me and my friends here in Congress. So that's who Mitch McConnell is. Number two, he said, it's designed to make it more likely the Democrats win more often. Now, does it say anything about, hey, we got to twist things, or even, of course, not going to say twist things, but is there anything in there that puts a thumb on the scale for Democrats? No. What it does is it says we want to make it easier for everyone to vote. It doesn't say Democrats. It doesn't say, like, you know what Republicans will do? They'll say, okay, we're going to take away voting areas in places more likely to vote Democratic, like areas that have students, minorities, etc., right? And we're going to put more voting areas in areas that are rural, white, people more likely to vote for Republicans. See, that would be putting your thumb on the scale. Democrats do not do that in this bill. What they say is, we want to make sure everybody can vote. White, black, Latino, rural, urban, it doesn't matter, right? And Mitch McConnell's like, you want people to vote? This is obviously Democrats trying to win elections. Well, thank you for your admission that Democrats are more likely to win if people vote, and that you've been trying to block that vote your entire career. Yeah. But finally, we get to the point, the last part of his statement that I think is the most important. He says, this is a solution in search of a problem. So you don't think there's any corruption problem at all in Washington? No one agrees with you. I mean, every single poll ranges from 82 to 93% saying there's a massive corruption problem in Washington and it needs to be addressed. Now, the reason Mitch McConnell says that, because he is the single most corrupt person in Washington and probably the single most corrupt person of my lifetime. Now, it's not to say that he's as personally corrupt as Donald Trump, who runs two-bit scams and is a con artist, or Duke Cunningham. By the way, these are all Republicans who went to prison for his corruption, etc., right? But on a systemic level that affects the whole country, no one defends corruption as much as Mitch McConnell does. He is the head of the swamp. So he is worse in that sense than Donald Trump. He is more corrupt, he's more the swamp. So if you are looking for patient zero in why Washington is a disgusting, corrupt cesspool, it is Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, and the issue is, I mean, you mentioned a couple of individual things that are in there that are indisputable. You can't actually go on the record saying that you're against that because it seems ridiculous, but we don't get to do that. There's no forum to say, okay, Mitch McConnell, here are 15 elements of it. I want you to say if you're in favor or against individual elements. We don't get to do that. If he runs again, he could skip the debates if he wants to. It's probably safe enough. Republicans have given up on doing town halls for literally like at least 2 years now. They've decided that they're not going to do it because the people actually go and
because
ask
they're
tough
cowards.
questions.
Yeah,
exactly. And there apparently is little price to pay for being on the anti-side of the should we be a democracy.
So this is why.
Question.
There's little price to pay because in order to face the consequences, the public needs to know. Like there needs to be widespread outrage over the fact that Mitch McConnell is in favor of corruption and that he refuses to allow the Senate to even vote on this, right? So here's everything played out the way that it was supposed to play out. Like, let's keep it real. House Democrats knew that Mitch McConnell would block this legislation. And I think what they were planning on doing, or what they were banking on, was, okay, he is going to refuse to do a vote on this, and then the media is gonna cover it, and it's gonna make the Republican Party look really bad because it appears that they're in favor of corruption, right? But here's what I think House Democrats got wrong. They forgot the fact that the media doesn't care, right? The media is not making a big deal about this. Earlier this week on NPR, a guest came on to talk about the Ilhan Omar controversy, and she made the argument that, Democrats really wanted a lot of focus and attention on HR 1, and now everyone's distracted by this Ilhan Omar story. No, but you're in the media. They're distracted by the Ilhan Omar story because that's all you've been focusing on, right? So look, the American people don't get the information that they need, right? The gatekeepers of information still exist. They push out and really amplify the stories that they want to amplify. And stuff like this that actually impacts every single American and undermines our democracy doesn't really get much play.
Yeah, so look, this is a good moment to give credit to Democratic leadership because HR 1 is really good. And the main thing we care about on this show, overwhelmingly so, is policy. Are you pushing good policy or not? But they always find a way to get snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. How so in this case? I'm going to back up Anna's point with a little bit more detail. So because we want to be constructive. So how else could they do it? It's easy to criticize, right? Well, what creates a lot of media coverage? Policy? No, the media hates policy discussion because they'd have to say, like, if they had to discuss the essence of this bill, well, Mitch McConnell is corrupt. He is protecting the donors. So, for example, now they can't ever say that because they do political correctness. They don't want to give you the truth. They want to give you politically correct things. Republicans and Democrats have an honest disagreement. No, they don't. Mitch McConnell wants to protect his donors, and he's filed several cases in court protecting the identity of the donors, etc. Disclosure Act is a part of this legislation. It doesn't say you can't legally bribe politicians like we have now. It just says you have to tell us who's bribing you above $10,000, okay? It doesn't use the word bribe. That's what the rest of you, we all know, the conservatives know it, everybody knows that it's a bribe. But that's okay, it doesn't use that language. It says just tell us who your donors are. Mitch McConnell and the Chamber of Commerce and all the big business interests are like, oh my God, this would make our First Amendment rights limited. Wait, first of all, speech isn't money, but okay, fine, the Supreme Court's corrupt too. But why would it, but it's not limiting your right to spend the money, but it would embarrass us and it would make us a little bit more reluctant to buy off politicians. Well, why are you embarrassed? If you think it's your First Amendment rights, I'm not embarrassed about supporting any policy positions. We scream it from the rooftops. The reason you're embarrassed is because you know you're buying off politicians for your own personal interest. That's why you're embarrassed. See now, the press can say that. They can maybe say it a little bit more polite than I am, but they could ask a very legitimate question anytime a Republican comes on. Sir, what would be the harm in anyone knowing if a donor gave you money for your candidacy or for an issue or gave money for advocacy? If they believe in those issues, like making sure that Americans have lower wages, shouldn't they be proud of those policy positions? Why do they want to hide? But no, I gotta call it even. So how can Democrats, now back to constructive, how can Democrats fix this problem? Because the media is not going to voluntarily help them, okay? And it's not about helping them, it's about covering it right, okay? You can cause a controversy, because if the media doesn't like policy, which it doesn't, they love controversy. So why does it always fall on us to do what the Democrats should be doing on their own? Nancy Pelosi, after passing HR 1, should have called a press conference saying Mitch McConnell will not introduce it in the Senate because he's the most corrupt politician of our lifetime. Now, if she did that, what would happen? Controversy, controversy. Oh my God, it was personal. Nancy Pelosi sniped on McConnell. Let's all cover it. Cable news will rush to it, right? And then we might accidentally have a conversation about, wait, why is Mitch McConnell corrupt? Wait a minute, he wants to hide the identity of all the donors? Why does he want to hide their identity? Wait a minute, these guys can give millions. In fact, when the big business guys, billions of dollars to politicians and then get exactly what they want, that's the conversation you want to start. So HR 1 is a terrific start, but you've got to finish it. You've got to continue that conversation. And if you don't, he's just going to kill it in the Senate and he's going to drown it. But it's, by the way, I will say this though, it's not going to be that easy for him. That press conference, normally McConnell, like he never gets ruffled in any way, shape, or form. He's always like very boring, placid, etc. That was as animated as he gets.
Oh my God.
Okay, believe it or not. Why was he using such strong language, which he normally doesn't? Normally he's like, we're gonna win, you guys are gonna lose, we have all the money, whatever, this press conference is over, okay? So in this case, he's like, no, this has no chance, this is a turkey, okay? Why? Because there's a lot of Republicans who are up for election next time in 2020, and they're worried. They're gonna vote against an anti-corruption bill? And Mitch McConnell says the American people don't want that. The American people are what, pro-corruption? Are you mental? That's why you've got senators in Colorado and all these other places. Lisa Murkowski in Alaska already had proposed something similar to the Disclosure Act before. And so he's gonna, if they put it up for a vote, he's gonna lose some Republican senators, and he's actually a little worried it might pass.
Yeah, he's definitely scared. And the Republicans up for re-election are also concerned that money in politics could hurt their chances of getting re-elected. So they're worried about outside money pouring in to defeat them. And so, look, money in politics works both ways, right? They might take advantage and exploit that corruption, but that same corruption can come back to bite them. And so that's part of the reason why some of those Republicans in the Senate wanted to pass this legislation.
Yeah, and I look, in that sense, the Steyers and Soroses, there's so many others, right? The Republicans always just point them out because they're Jewish, but those Democratic donors are, in a sense, accidental American heroes. Now, would I take their money out of politics too? Goddamn right I would. I'd take everybody's money out. Koch brothers, Mercer, Soros, Bloomberg, it doesn't matter, okay? But since the Republicans are now a little scared of that money from the left billionaires, left-wing billionaires, now all of a sudden they're like, well, I mean, dark money in politics. I mean, when it was coming to me, I kind of loved it, but now it's coming against me and I'm in a little bit of a panic here, right? And so that little twitch they got going is wonderful to see. I love the smell of corrupt politician panic in the morning. And so that's kind of where we are.
Probably sweaty.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So all the Democratic donors, keep going, keep going. If the Republicans are gonna give, you give in that, and so if you guys wanna come to a deal where we take all the money out of politics, let's do it. Let's do it tomorrow. wolf-pack.com. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.